ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance with Stuco Officer Amanda Otterson.
Do I just start? Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Have a seat, please. If I could have your attention. Thank you. On behalf of School of the Osage and the Lake of the Ozarks communities, I'd like to welcome our student body, our Osage staff, and special guests, and especially the family of Michael Hopkins, to our assembly today as we commemorate his launch to the Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to the International Space Station today. Certainly, our thoughts and prayers are with Michael and his family today. This time, we'd like to recognize any family members who are in the audience today. Would those family members please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Today is a very special day, not just for School of the Osage, but also for the state of Missouri and the United States of America. The School of the Osage is pleased and proud to be a part of this celebration and this historic day, but a big thank you to all of our students and staff members who have helped out to put today's events together. It's been wonderful to see such a great support from our community and our school for Colonel Hopkins and his family. Again, thank you. We're honored to have a very special guest on our campus today at School of the Osage, Captain Scott Tingle. Captain Tingle considers his hometown to be Randolph, Massachusetts. Captain Tingle graduated from Blue Hills Regional Vocational Technical High School in Canton, Massachusetts in 1983. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Mechanical Engineering from Southeastern Massachusetts University in 1987. Earned a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering with a specialty in Fluid Mechanics and Propulsion from Purdue University. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Along with Michael Hopkins, Captain Tingle was selected in July of 2009 to be one of 14 members of the 20th NASA astronaut class. And it is my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Captain Scott Tingle.
This button out. Okay, this is working now. Awesome, this is great. Thanks for having me, Osage. Round of applause for Mike Hopkins getting ready to launch to the space station. Okay, I got to do something I promised for Mikey. If you can turn that light off back there just for a second. And those of you that have pictures, hold them up. This is a special surprise for Mike. Hold them up. And let's show some energy for Mike Hopkins. All right. I guarantee you that Mike will be looking at these at about 8 or 9 hours when he gets up to the space station. Absolutely incredible. Nice job. Thank you. But it is great to be here. I cruised into town last night after landing in Branson, and that drive up here about 2.5 hours or so. Absolutely beautiful. I can't believe there are actually people that grow up in places like this. This is absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for inviting me up for that. Oh, my name is Scott Tingle. That's me, the little dork kid who grew up from South Boston, and he already read where I came from and all that stuff. But I am an engineer by trade. Came from Purdue from grad school, worked as an engineer for a little while, and then went into the Navy. I just started my 30th year in the Navy. I've been flying airplanes for about 23 years in the Navy, and was a Navy test pilot at Patuxent River. And I was fortunate enough to get selected to the NASA Astronaut Corps, where I met our hero, Mike Hopkins. We call him Hopper, okay? That's his call sign. So if you hear me talking about Hopper, that's who I'm talking about. And I got more to talk about here and about Hopper, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about our space program first so that you can relate to his experiences and to his journey from Osage all the way up to the International Space Station. So we have this International Space Station. It's an engineering marvel. It was designed, built, and operated by 16 international partners. It flies at about 250 miles above the Earth in its orbit. Anybody, I know somebody in here knows how fast it goes. Who wants to guess? Exactly, 17,500 miles per hour. Did you get a patch before? No, you get one now. See, when you answer a question, you get a patch. There you go. All right. But it's got a lot of great things going on up there. At any given time, we have either 3 people or 6 people. In general, we have 6 people up there. You can see it going by, and we'll talk about how to do that in a little bit. And it's just really a neat facility that they got working on up there. And this is how Mike's ride. Okay, right now he's getting suited up, and he's probably getting ready to start driving out towards the launch pad. But this is a Soyuz rocket that he's going to fly up there with his 2 other crew members. It's a Russian system. He's launching out of Kazakhstan or Baikonur, and they'll launch around 15:58, and they'll be at the space station around 21:42 local time. It's a very quick process this time around, and it's a very reliable system here that you're seeing as well. Okay, but we did get rid of our space shuttle several years ago, and we need to have our own vehicles. We need to be able to put our people on the space station up into low Earth orbit from our own soil. And so the programs that we're working on, we got the commercial crew program right here. We currently have 3 commercial partners competing with each other to try to build this capability back into our structure. And we have the Boeing CTS-100, which will be a capsule that'll take a handful of people, 4 people, up to the space station. And it will fly on top of an Atlas V rocket. We have the Sierra Nevada Corporation Dream Chaser, which is a lifting body. It'll take off, it'll launch again on the same Atlas V rocket. It'll drop off 4 folks to the International Space Station, and it'll come back and land on a runway. And then we have the SpaceX Dragon, which will launch on the Falcon 9, a company based in Hawthorne, California, who's already sent a couple of cargo ships up to the space station. So very promising in the commercial crew program, and neat capability coming to this country. And if you haven't figured it out, the commercial space race has begun. All right, now we got the government program called the Space Launch System, and sitting on top of it is the Orion capsule. We got a big, huge liquid engine there, kind of simulate, or it's kind of analogous to the old Saturn V that we used to fly, very powerful machine, and we're going to have a couple of boosters on each side of it. This system is going to be designed to carry 4 astronauts to distant space locations, such as an asteroid, Mars, or the moon, things like that. But living and working in space can be very challenging. It takes its toll on your body. You have to train for it, you have to be prepared for it, and you have to want to do it. This picture looks like just kind of a cool picture. Somebody out doing a spacewalk, enjoying the view. Hey, I'll just carry this piece of equipment and put it on where I'm supposed to put it on. But when I see this picture, this is what I see. Inside that suit, there's an astronaut who has trained for 20 or 30 years to do that job. And there are literally hundreds and hundreds of trainers that have spent tens of thousands of man-hours making sure that person in that suit was good enough to go and do that job and to do it safely. And then you have the suit. We have engineers, scientists, and technicians that designed, built, and operate and maintain that suit so that it's safe and so that it works. Again, hundreds of thousands of hours put into that. And then you have the equipment. Can't be too heavy because we can't get it there. Can't be too light because it might break. It's got to fit right and it's got to work right the first time because it's too expensive to put it in orbit and then not be able to use it. So we got engineers, technicians, and scientists making sure all of that works right. So what I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of people on this human spaceflight team. There's a lot of opportunity, and there's a lot of things that have to come together to really make this work. We got more than just astronauts. We got scientists, public relations folks, we have technicians, geologists, medical people, we have business folks, a lot of mathematicians, and you name it. If there's a specialty out there, we're using it in human spaceflight because we need it to make it a strong program. Okay, so over to Mike Hopkins. He was born in Lebanon and grew up on a farm near Richland. Graduated from Osage here in 1987. Here's a picture of his dad, his older brother, and himself right there. Little Mikey going up to the space station. He was an energetic child, but he loved sports, football and hockey specifically. And he loved his family. Mikey's one of my best friends, and I'll tell you what I was telling the other folks. He's one of the most honest people with some of the greatest integrity that I've ever met. I trust him with my life implicitly. And here's a picture of him with his lovely wife, Julie, and his sons, Ryan and Lucas. He's a little bit old. The kids are a little bit bigger. In fact, they're much bigger. They can beat me up now. But this is just such a great picture. I had to include it. All right, so Mikey graduates from Osage as an alumni, and he goes on to University of Illinois. Graduates with a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace Engineering. Then he goes to Stanford and gets a Master of Science in Aerospace Engineering, all the time being ROTC in the Air Force and a commissioned Air Force officer. So he works in the Air Force in a little bit. In 1996, he attends the prestigious United States Air Force Test Pilot School. He does extremely well. He flies in a bunch of airplanes, and he really makes his mark testing weapon systems and flight systems for the aircraft that our country needs to make the Air Force strong. And then he comes and meets me at NASA as part of the class of 2009 as an astronaut, and forever known as the Chumps. So as an astronaut, we go through basic training. It takes about 2 years, and we did a lot of fun things. One of the funnest things we did was we got in the zero-G airplane, and it's an airplane that goes up, flies a parabola, it pushes over, and it goes down, and for about 18 to 20 seconds you can just floating around, and it simulates zero gravity. And we had an absolute blast for a couple hours as a class doing this, and just picture what it would take to actually get this many knuckleheads together to actually take this picture. It was pretty funny to watch this whole thing come together. Mikey is always loves being outside. We love going camping. We love just hanging out and enjoying nature for what it is. We did National Outdoor Leadership School as part of our astronaut training, and he led the way. He was very comfortable. He knew how to navigate. He knew how to get by in the outback. We went to the Canyonlands in Utah, and it was very challenging. We were going up and down faces that were almost purely vertical without ropes. We were just trying to zigzag our way around. He was not only carrying his pack, but he was carrying somebody weaker than him that has been a hard time carrying their pack as well. So he's carrying 2 packs, and these weren't little packs. These packs were as big as me. And he's just an incredible person, incredible leader, somebody you want to follow. And this is my favorite because, being a pilot, I love to fly airplanes. And Mikey Hopkins is great. He's one of the guys that I want to fly in airplanes. Like I said, I trust my life with him implicitly. And in this scenario right here, it qualifies as that as well. But this is my really favorite picture because that's me right there. And that's Hopper right there. And that's us taking off from Fort Smith, Arkansas after a big fat barbecue sandwich. And then some of the other more challenging things, getting in the suit and working the EVA. We have a neutral buoyancy training lab at Johnson Space Center, and it's this big pool that's probably a football field big, maybe 2 football fields, but it's about 50 feet deep. And we have a full mock-up of the International Space Station. And so what we do is we put on our suit and we train. We go underwater and we simulate zero gravity. It's really just neutral buoyancy. But we get to practice when you push on something, that something doesn't go away. You go away and it goes away. So every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We get to practice all of that stuff. How to turn wrenches, how to position your body, how to get around a corner when you can't just use gravity to swing your feet around, you know, how to do that. And it takes a significant amount of training, and it's very challenging because these suits are not very comfortable. But Mikey was really good at it. He excelled at this. He loved it. Okay, I got a little video here. It's probably a little bit longer than I would want to make if I made it myself, but it's got some really cool pictures and a good soundtrack to it. So I hope you like it.
To have you here, come join us. It's a really exciting and fun place to work.
We're not going to give these folks any rest. We're starting training right away. We're headed to Maine in the morning for the rest of the week in land survival training in the mountains of Maine. And then the rest of the Afghan training is off and running for the next about a year and a half to 2 years.
All right, pretty cool stuff, huh? Yeah. Now it's your turn to get into some of this training. Okay, so Mike was the first one to be assigned out of our class, and rightfully so. He's just a very squared away person, and I've given him all the accolades I can. He's just an absolutely incredible person. He absolutely deserved to be first, and we're very proud of him. He carries with him all of our hopes and dreams, as well as all of Osage's. So here we got Mikey on the left. We have his commander, Oleg Kotev, on the in the center, and then we have Sergei Ryazinski. I have trouble saying that every once in a while, as a fellow flight engineer. But he's part of Expedition 37. They'll go up there. We got 3 folks up there right now. I got a little picture of them that they'll meet, and they'll complete Expedition 37. And then in 3 months, the other 3 that are up there now will come back, and 3 more will launch, and that will become Expedition 38. Okay, so who wants to answer this question? Let me get a patch. Somebody needs a patch. Okay, so if a house is on fire, what do you do? What's that? Stop, drop, and roll. No, that's nuclear. Get on the floor. No, that's not the right answer. Yeah, I couldn't hear you. Somebody had it. What's that? You get out of the house. You get out of the house. Call 911. Ma'am, you get a patch. All right. That's the right answer. Call 911. So what's the problem with that on the space station? There's no 911. There's no fire department. You are the fire department. You have what you have when you get up there. And so right here in the simulator, we have ways to simulate certain emergencies, and Mike and his crew went through all of that training to make sure that they were capable of answering that call to 911 if it happens. Okay, and here's Mike in his suit in a little serious moment. Probably didn't know somebody was getting ready to snap a picture, otherwise he would have been smiling because he's such a happy guy. But you can tell he's running through all of the stuff he's going to do as soon as he gets in the water, because he wants it to go fast, he wants it to be efficient, and he wants it to be right. And when you go through this training, it's about a 2.5-year process from the time frame that you're assigned to go through the actual expedition training. And about half of that is in Russia. I mean, it's really a challenge on the family. It's a challenge on you to be able to just kind of keep going with it and to keep pushing through. But there's lots of academics, lots of tests, lots of evaluations. You really got to know your stuff cold. And we have plenty of opportunities to show that we know it or don't know it. In Mikey's case, he always knew it. In the simulator, when we get to do some little practical exercises in operations and how to control that vehicle and how to handle emergencies when systems break. Okay, so here's Expedition 37 crew as of probably 10 o'clock tonight. We'll have Karen Nyberg, we will have Fyodor Yurchikin, and then Luca Parmitano up there is the first 3 that are up there right now. And then Mike and Oleg and Sergei will meet him as part of this next Soyuz launch. Then the next crew that comes up will be Koichi, who will be the commander, Rick Mastracchio, and we have Mikhail. And I can't pronounce his last name, so I won't try. But then they will become Expedition 38. Okay, I got a little video here. It's only about 1.5 minutes long, but it'll give you a better chance to meet the crew. Uh-oh. Doesn't look like the internet's working. So we are going to move on. All right, and this is a pretty good video, and I'm sorry I can't show it because the internet's not connected. But Mike is physically fit. He's a strong guy, and he loves to be physically fit, and he loves to bring us all in and make us physically fit too. Well, he wants all you to be physically fit, and he wants you to participate in the whole process of the astronauts being physically fit and you being physically fit. And so what they're doing is they're training like an astronaut. That's the name of a program they got going. And you can like him on Facebook or follow him on Twitter. And I'll have some of that data here for you here in a little bit. And you can provide your workouts and share your thoughts, and he'll provide his workouts and share his thoughts, and you can follow him through this whole 6-month process on how he's going to work with his body to do the things that he needs it to do while he's on orbit. You know, one of the biggest problems we have while we're on orbit is bone loss. Right? right? Just like osteoporosis in older folks back here on Earth. When we go up and we work in zero gravity, our bones start losing density and we start losing mass. But we've found that the way that we can control that is by lifting weights and by working out and by being healthy. And that's what he's trying to accomplish. And he wants to bring that message back to you because it obviously has implications for folks back here on Earth too. So if you get a chance, talk to your folks, get on Facebook and Twitter, and then participate with Mike, and he'd absolutely love it. Okay, so his launch info, he's already awake, and it is almost 3 o'clock. So we are right in between here, okay? So he is strapped in. He's ridden the elevator, he's up there, and he's thinking. He's thinking about you, he's thinking about his family, and he's saying, God, please don't let me mess this up. I know somebody's going to ask that question on what he's thinking. That's just a guess. But he's going to do great, and they're going through their system checks. They should launch at about 15:58, and we'll be showing that on NASA TV here as well. And again, the orbit insertion will happen around 4 o'clock, or 7 past 4, and then the rendezvous and docking will be about 9:42 for that. And if you're not here, and I don't think we will be here by then, but you can watch that at home. And that's pretty neat to watch too, because it's a very slow, methodical process. But when they open the hatch, it's really cool because all the morale for the 3 people that have been up there by themselves get new company, and you get the folks that just went through the experience of a lifetime in a launch, and they're up at the space station. It's just a very emotional event for all involved. So I recommend you watch that if you can. All right, I do have a message from Hopper, and I'll need to turn the volume up here a little bit, and but this is from him to you.
Hello, School of the Osage and all my family and friends. This is Mike Hopkins talking to you from Baikonur, Kazakhstan, which is all the way on the other side of the world from you right now. It's actually Sunday morning at about 3 in the morning over here. We're actually going through a sleep shift right now because we're going to be launching early in the morning about this time, and so we want to get ourselves prepared for that. And so actually I'm also standing in the conference room where next week we'll have a state commission that will certify our crew ready for launch. But actually we're going to be sitting behind the glass right over there because we're also in a quarantine state, which means we want to make sure we don't get sick before we get ready to launch. And so that launch is going to happen about 4 days from now. It's about 25 miles that way. So when you guys are seeing this video, I should be over there getting strapped into the rocket and getting ready to launch. So I also want to say thanks to my good friend Scott Tingle, who I know has been sharing a lot about the human spaceflight program with you and giving you some details on our launch. And then finally just say thank you to all of you for participating in this really special day for us. And you know, I started my journey to spaceflight sitting where all you are right now, and I hope you continue to follow us over the next 6 months on the International Space Station. See ya.
Excellent. Okay, so if you want to connect with Hopper or NASA, you can go to www.nasa.gov. On Twitter, you can do @AstroIllini, and you can follow him. And on Facebook, Train Astronaut, and you like his page. Great way to communicate, and you'll get other links in there that I'm sure you're going to want to surf and go look at too, but those are great opportunities. All right, now for a Hopper sighting, okay, if you want to see Hopper sometime in the next 6 months while he's on the space station, all you have to do is go to Google and type in "where is ISS," and a couple of the links that will come up will bring you to the ISS tracking website. And so what you do is you type in your city, where you are, and it'll come up with the dates and the times and where to look on where you can actually see the space station coming across the sky. And this Saturday night, there's one at 5:59. If you look to the north-northwest, you'll see it come up, and it'll go down in the northeast. And it'll be, highest elevation will be 21 degrees, and you'll see it for about 3 minutes. But this one right here on Monday, don't miss it. It's going to be beautiful. I hope it's not cloudy because you really need to see this. This is going to be beautiful. Okay? At 5:57 a.m., it's going to come up pretty much northwest, so look to the west, and it'll go down directly east. But it's going to get up to almost 50 degrees. It's going to be way high in the sky, and you're going to see it for 4 minutes. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. It's going to come up, and it's going to seem like it comes out of nowhere because it's going to look like a little small airplane, and then all of a sudden it's going to look like Venus and a big star, and it's just going to be going across the sky at a constant rate. and you will have no doubt in your mind that that's Hopper shining down on you. Okay, so when you're watching Hopper fly by, I want you to remember one thing, and that is to dream big. Okay, let's see here. So it's questions. Sure, this is on. It's questions time, and we have pre-positioned some questions and some cards, and so we'll answer some of these, and then depending on the time that we have, we'll come back and we'll take some from the crowd as well. But we do need to get NASA TV up on board, up online. If the IT folks want to put NASA TV up, maybe with a lower volume, we can get started on that and start working through these questions. All right, question number 1. Can you use your phone in space? No, that would be against regulations. Actually, they do have, you can't use your cell phones because you have to connect to a tower and it's all line of sight and you're moving so fast. They don't have the software to actually, switch from tower to tower that fast. So, but what you can do, they do have an IP phone, which is just a voice over IP or an internet phone, and they use it after hours to call home, to make phone calls and do things like that. But it requires what we call KU band. It's a high bandwidth, things that we use for video and things, and we connect through 2 satellites, one on the east side and one on the west side of the Earth, and they're called TDRS. The military uses them for communications, and we use them for communications as well. And sometimes those fail, so it's not 100% that you get to use the IP phone, but it's been very reliable, especially for being up in space. All right, next question was, let's see, when did you realize you wanted to be an astronaut? And that was, I think, when I was 4 years old. Just a few days after my 4th birthday, Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. And my mom tells me a story of I looked at her and said, I want to do that. And so hopefully we can do that sooner or later. All right, if you could bring anything into space, what would it be? Who wants to take a guess on what I'd bring? Yeah, that's right. I'd bring my family. I think you get a patch. Here you go. Oh. All right, and the next question is, when do you get to go into space? Not soon enough. What's the craziest thing you've done when you were in training? Training is really, that's a hard question to answer because there's so many people watching. You're not afforded the opportunity to do anything crazy like you would do when nobody's watching. But since the question didn't ask me what nobody's watching, I'll just say I've done nothing crazy in training. Yeah, when no one was watching. I'm not telling you because I don't want you to go out and do it. All right, what inspired you to become an astronaut? That's a good question, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, seeing Neil Armstrong walk on the moon was absolutely incredible. Flying airplanes off of aircraft carriers, absolutely incredible. But I think what really lured me into the community and into the activities associated with all those things are just the people. It's just incredible people, incredibly smart, incredibly engaged, incredibly service-oriented, and it's just a place where I really like to make my living. And one of the other questions, when do you get to fly in space? And again, hopefully soon, and it won't be soon enough. But even if it doesn't happen, just because of that right here, the people I get to work with, that come out and meet all you folks, and that really makes the job worthwhile. All right. What's it like going at 3 Gs? Well, G's are an acceleration. You kind of don't really go at 3 Gs, but you do pull 3 Gs. So in airplanes, we pull 7.5 to 9.5 or whatever, depending on what we're doing. And that's pretty cool. Sometimes if you're in a ballistic entry, you can get 10 or 11, 12 Gs or so as you're re-entering the atmosphere. That's pretty cool. It's just kind of like being on a Disney ride where you're feeling the different forces and some things. My kids and I have a little thing when we get on elevators. If we're going down, we try to accelerate
the deceleration by doing this just as it stops. And you can really feel it in your legs when you try to fight it and stand up when the elevator's trying to slow down. And I look at him, and my youngest is always like, "Daddy, we were pulling G's." And it's like, yep, it's like 1.01, but you were pulling G's. But it's pretty cool, but you get used to it after a while. It's really not that big a deal. What college did you go to and to become an astronaut? I went, it's cited as Southeastern Massachusetts University. It's now the University of Massachusetts because they merged. And then I went to Purdue. But that's, there are schools out there that have a high astronaut rate. I was totally lucky by going to Purdue because I didn't know that when I went there. But they have a very high rate of astronauts, a number of astronauts that come from there. MIT, Stanford, there are lots of other colleges, state universities all over the country. NASA really tries to hire from all corners. Okay, so I wouldn't pick a school just based on that if that's what you're getting at. I would pick a school based on what you want to do and what's available there for the program, because that's where you will excel, and that's what will get you to the astronaut corps. All right, how long does it take to become an astronaut? A lifetime. It's you can work on it for a long time and never get there. I applied 5 times, and I was lucky enough. I kind of gave up, and I said, well, I'm going to throw in this last application, and we'll see what happens. I'll go to my grave knowing I tried. And fortunately, I got accepted and selected, and it's been a great ride ever since for that. But the moral of the story is, don't ever give up. All right. Even after 6 months in after 6 months in space, is weightlessness still a good time? I'm sure it is. I haven't flown in space yet, so I can't answer that definitively, but any day you get up and fly like Superman from here to that wall is a good day. What has been the best part about training? Like I said before, without a doubt, it's the people. They got great folks there. I love working with them every day, and I love coming out and meeting all of you folks too for that. What kind of things do you have to learn to be an astronaut? You have to learn all kinds of things. To be an astronaut, you really have to be in a STEM type profession: science, technology, engineering, or math. You have to have something that you can bring to the table. So a little bit of experience as an engineer, or experience as a doctor, or experience as we have veterinarians. We've also hired science teachers because they help us formulate our educational plans for on orbit and to connect with our student folks back here on Earth and to provide some good opportunities for that. Science, math, engineering, medical stuff, chemistry, all of those things matter, and those are the things you need to know. Those are the academic and the technical things you need to know. But there's some other stuff that some folks don't talk about a whole lot, and that is you have to know how to work with a lot of people, a lot of different people from different countries. They don't think the same way you do. They might not even speak the same language, and you have to be patient, and you have to be smart, and you have to be able to communicate and get that team together and moving in one direction. It might take leadership, it might take followership, or it might just take a warm personality to bring everybody together. And those are the kinds of things that you need to learn as well, on top of all the bookwork. Okay, so what does being in space for so long do to your body? Well, some of the things, we talked about bone loss. That's something that we are always studying. That's probably our biggest problem. We have radiation concerns, so we have radiation counters. So when somebody gets, too much radiation per the counters, and that's just an estimate. It's not like we're out measuring radiation. We're just making calculations on what we think they were exposed to. Then we stop flying them in space, and those numbers are very gray. But radiation is a big deal up there. We have shields. We have, shields on our helmets when we're out there doing spacewalks, and we're constantly reminded that we need to stay out of the radiation paths, specifically the sun.
Shoots and soft landing rocket engines.
So the other thing that we get worried about, we also have a fluid shift in our
There are
bodies
8
when we get up into
hydrogen
orbit.
peroxide
So when
located
we're
on
on
the
Earth,
modules that are used
all the
to
fluid in
control
our
the
body,
spacecraft's
gravity's holding it
orientation or
down.
attitude.
When we get up into
During
space in
the
zero
descent,
gravity,
all
total
the
period.
fluid moves back up into your body, and it can kind of float in your head. And it increases pressures, it makes your face a little bit fatter, it makes your body a little bit fatter, and it kind of changes your level of hydration. So we have to work that, we have to get used to that. And then coming back, we have to recondition ourselves back to Earth, and that's another thing that we have to worry about. We've also seen some effects on vision as well, and we're currently studying it because we don't fully understand what's happening there. All right, what qualifies someone to go into space? Well, the real qualification is getting through the training and getting signed off by the international board that says they're going to let you go into space and work the systems up on the International Space Station. But to get to that point, you have to come to the table or come to the interview with a good technical background, like we talked about before, and you have to be able to get along with people. And if you can do all that, then you'll be primed for an interview to do that. How much training goes into preparing for space? Well, you got a lifetime of training before you get to NASA, but once you get to NASA, you'll have a couple of years of basic training, like the video that I showed you with some really cool stuff. It'll be very busy, but it'll be really cool. And then once you're assigned, like Hopper, you'll have about 2.5 years of training so that you can fly on a rocket up to the space station, spend 6 months there, and then come back. By the time you get there, it might be a little different. We might have commercial vehicles, or you might train to go to Mars. You never know. What are you trying to gain by going into space? It's in our DNA to explore. You know, Magellan, Lewis and Clark, Columbus. We all want to explore. We want to go to the next level. Humans want to branch out. We want to survive. That's really what we're doing. But there's a lot of science that can be gained. You know, we're up in low Earth orbit now. Hopefully someday we can go to the moon and finish some of our science up there and investigating the moon and some of the areas that we didn't get to. And we'd like to use that as a springboard to maybe get to Mars. You know, we're currently planning on going to an asteroid and bring some of those celestial bodies back into an orbit around the moon so that we can go there and see what they're made of and where they came from. And all of that comes down to is, you know, where we came from and where we're going. And that's basically what we are trying to understand and trying to do. All right, and I think that's it for the written ones. It looks like we have TV on there. I don't know if this looks like live TV to me. No, it can't be live TV because I think they're suited up now. Yeah. This is a recording, and they are walking out earlier in the day. Yeah. They're signing the door. Everybody that goes out and flies a Soyuz gets to sign the door. It's pretty neat stuff. All right, so while we're watching this in the background, are there any questions out there that you have for me? Go ahead, sir. For the most G's a human can pull, everybody's different, and it depends what you have on for systems. In the military, we have G suits and things that squeeze our abdomen so we can keep blood in our head and all that stuff. My tolerance is about 8.5 without any of that stuff, and then maybe about 9.5 with that stuff on there. But I'm short and stocky and have high blood pressure, so it's easy to do that. There are other folks that are tall and skinny that will pass out in 3 Gs. So it's so about 8, 9, or 10, and that's in the sitting position. If you're coming in on a rocket and you're on your back, I'm guessing 13, 14, 15, 16 Gs or whatever, it's doable for short durations. Okay, who else has a question? Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
What's your job when you return from the space station?
Your job is to rehabilitate, because there's a lot of physical things that have changed in your body that you need to get back into shape. You need to rebuild your bone density, you need to get your muscles back in order, get your balance back. That takes anywhere, you know, you make good progress. The curve is steep, but overall from start to finish it takes about 6 months to do that. And so there's nothing on your schedule for that. And then after that you'll get a technical job, which will be supporting some of these programs, or working in mission control, or working in one of the other branches for ISS operations, things like that. But pretty much supporting the other folks that are going to go fly. Yes, sir.
Do you have to go through U.S. Customs when you come back?
I think we get a pass on that one.
I heard you last time.
Oh, did he? Oh, maybe. Yes, ma'am. Yes, we all have to learn Russian to go onto the space station. We have to be intermediate, mid to intermediate high, which is fairly fluent in Russian, and it's a very hard language to learn. Нет. Yes, sir. Say that again?
How many gallons of fuel does the rocket use to get up there?
Wow, that's a good question, and I don't know. We're going to have to Google that a little bit later. He wanted to know how many gallons of fuel that the Soyuz actually uses to get up to the space station. It's a lot. It's way more than in your car. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you want to explain to us why we're having to take off from Kazakhstan?
Why we have to operate from Russia?
Yeah.
Well, we made the decision a long time ago to get rid of the shuttle because it was very expensive. We were spending billions. Every shuttle launch was $500, $600 million. And we designed the space shuttle so that it could build the space station, and the space station was complete. And so we had to make a decision. And at that time, we had Constellation and a whole program that was up and running. It was getting ready to go through its preliminary design review, working towards CDR, critical design review. And it was on a track, a systems engineering track, to become our next transportation to and from the space station. Then we had a change of course, and that program got canceled. And so then we were left with nothing. And so now the gap, is what we call it, is being filled by the Russian Soyuz, and we pay for their services to get us up and back from the space station while we are building our new commercial fleet. And the idea is that we have taken some of those funds that we were using for the shuttle and focused them towards commercial contractors in the commercial community to be able to focus on getting us back and forth transportation to low Earth orbit, so that we, the government, can actually focus on a distant space and long duration type travel for that. That's the thinking of it. We've got 4 more minutes. Okay. So another question or two. Okay, way back there in the green. You're gonna have to say that again. I couldn't hear you. How does being gone affect family life? Well, it depends on the family, for sure, but it's a challenge, without a doubt. You know, in Mikey's case, he's got a very strong family, so while it was sad and challenging, it will make them stronger, without a doubt. And the sense of service that you're doing by supporting this program and by going to the space station and making that sacrifice is actually very rewarding when you get done. And it's not only rewarding for the astronaut, it's rewarding for the family, because they make a lot of the sacrifice, and they don't even get to go, you know, to the space station for that. So it is challenging. But the other thing is that we have tens of thousands of people that live like that every day in the military. They're gone for 6 months, a year, you know, overseas, doing a lot of that. And so there's a lot of folks that are making that sacrifice and not being able to go fly in space. And its impact is a negative impact for sure. It's challenging and it's sad. And as you get older, you don't want to do it anymore, because you start to change, and you realize your goals are good, but your family's better for that. So there's a challenge. It makes you think. It makes you appreciate what you got when you do that. And I know that's kind of a gray answer, but you know, it is what it is. All right, one more question. We're going to wrap it up. Who's got the lucky last question? Okay, over there with the hand way up there and the glasses. Oh, hygiene. Okay, showers and bathrooms. Okay. Well, when water comes out of a faucet at home, where does it go? Down into the drain, right? And it goes off into the sewer and into, you know, somewhere for treatment or whatever before it gets taken care of. When the water comes out of a little faucet in space, where does it go? It stays right there and it clings to everything it can stick to, and it's got surface tension, and if it wasn't moving at all, it'd just stay in a little ball altogether. So how do you take a shower with that? You could leave the water there and then get like a run and start and dive into it, but that wouldn't work very well because then you just got a bunch of water droplets all over you and you're not really getting clean. So what they do is they just pour a little bit of water on the on a face cloth or a towel, and a little bit of soap. You mix it all up, and you just wipe yourself down. And you try to clean yourself. Then you dry yourself down. And then there's a vacuum cleaner that you vacuum up any loose water with, so that it doesn't float around and get in the machinery and cause electrical shorts and things like that for that. And the same thing with the bathroom. In the bathroom, it's all about suction. Okay, you have to practice aiming, whether it's number 1 or number 2. Okay, you got to get it in the right tube, right? So then with the vacuum on it sucks it in, because that's the only force that will actually take it out of the space that it's in. And then when you're done, you have to go back and check to make sure there's not a little droplet somewhere that could cause somebody to get sick. So you have to wipe it down and all that stuff. But that's one of the things that we have to learn to do while we're in space. Okay, folks, that was great, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to hand the mic back over to Mike here for a second. Thank you very much. Thank you.
At this time, the students who are leaving to ride home can leave at this time. You'll exit both doors in the back. Thank you. Students who plan on staying can move toward the front. As soon as the other students let the auditorium.
How's it feeling?
14 or 15 Gs. It's one of the most dangerous things we can do.
Josh, all eyes are on the launch pad here in the pre-dawn hours of the Baikonur Cosmodrome. In the pre-dawn hours of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, as a large contingent of invited guests and family members watch the minutes tick backward to the third launch of the year of a crew bound for the International Space Station. NASA is represented here in Baikonur for today's launch by Greg Williams, who is NASA's Deputy Associate Administrator for Policy and Plans, and Joel Montalbano, the ISS Deputy Program Manager for Utilization. The weather is pleasant with a touch of fall in the air, temperatures hovering close to the 50-degree mark here in the deep overnight. After launch, officials and family members will gather back in the town of Baikonur at a local town hall, where a special NASA television feed will be set up to enable us to watch docking and hatch opening, and for the VIPs and family members to place congratulatory calls to the newly arrived crew members. Those activities used to occur in the Russian Mission Control Center for a typical docking 2 days after launch. But it would take us longer to fly back to Moscow from here than it will be for the Soyuz crew to reach the space station. So we'll remain in Baikonur through the morning to watch the Expedition 37 crew double in size. As we stand less than a mile from the launch pad from which Yuri Gagarin left the planet to change human history more than a half-century ago, that's it for now from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Back to you, Josh, at Mission Control in Houston.
So I'm just kind of
Thank you, Rob. We are still on track for an on-time liftoff today at 3:58 p.m. Central.
And I told them that abort is actually one of the most dangerous things we can do. It's low altitude and it's high G. It's like 15 or 16 Gs. It's huge. It's a big, big kick.
The stars are out for the crew as they get ready to lift off at 3:58 p.m. Central Time. During the climb to orbit, tracking and telemetry is downlinked to the ground stations along the flight path and is routed to the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. Seconds after the Soyuz reaches orbit, the vehicle's command and control system will be activated. Stored computer commands will deploy navigation and communications antennas, and the solar arrays will be deployed to collect power for use by the onboard batteries to generate electricity for the Soyuz systems. The first antennas to be deployed will be the Kurs rendezvous and docking antennas, which will be used to provide automatic range and rate of closure information on the final approach by the Soyuz for its docking with the Poisk module later this evening. About 90 minutes into the mission, the crew will oversee the programmed activation sequence of a variety of systems as the spacecraft makes its first pass over Russian ground stations. Those systems include the spacecraft's power supply system, its radio communication system, and the critical motion control system. Within the first 2.5 hours of today's flight, the Soyuz will execute 4 orbital adjustment burns as the vehicle fine-tunes its path to the International Space Station. 19 minutes 19 minutes until launch now. Everything going according to plan.
Because they're all strapped in and ready to launch in the Soyuz, and they're going through all of their system checks.
Just a few minutes,
sure
the
everything's up
onboard
and
gyro.
running.
How long are they in that position?
Deactivate.
Until they get into orbit. So right about, probably about an hour.
As we talked about before we came on the air, Tony Sukachi, who was the off-going flight director here inside Mission Control, did do his no-go poll here in Houston. Everything was go. They reported that to the Russian ground teams, everything according to the countdown, as we continue to look to tonight to launch at 3:58 p.m. Central Time. This Soyuz, as we're looking at now, stands ready to launch Mike Hopkins, Oleg Kotov, and Sergei Ryzhensky toward their home in space for the next 5 months. They'll have a busy time aboard the space station as they welcome a multitude of visiting spacecraft, a couple of spacewalks, hundreds of experiments, and a visit by the 2014 Olympic torch. Let's take a look at what's in store for Expedition 37.
The main focus for the crew on board the International Space Station this fall is on the station's top priority, groundbreaking scientific research that can't be done anywhere else, science that helps the people of Earth today and advances the technology needed to support space exploration beyond Earth tomorrow. This crew brings a range of experience to the task, starting with a commander who is finishing up his third long-duration spaceflight with special attention to experiments that could change lives on the ground.
We're working with experience for AIDS, for hepatitis, and for cancer. And if we help humans for one of these directions, I hope we're done with everything, with each dollar, with each ruble on space station program.
Two of the flight engineers, now more than 100 days into their first long mission, are working to find out how the environment of low Earth orbit impacts human bodies.
Probably one of the most important things, at least from the crew member's perspective, is crew health. And so we need to look at all of the things that radiation and lack of gravity do to us and make sure that we can mitigate all the negative effects as much as possible.
Some of that research into ways to protect people from the effects of spaceflight is paying off for people on Earth. For instance, the use of a portable ultrasound machine to map changes to the spine over the course of a spaceflight has applications for using a similar machine in other remote locations.
And developing protocols and softwares to improve the imaging on these machines could mean that soon after we complete our experiments, the technology that we import on the ground could help people all over the world to have access to better diagnosis on their spine.
A once and future space station commander, who is also a medical doctor, has 2 long-duration flights to his credit already, and so he has some insight into areas that need special attention, such as the impact to the vision of some crew members.
The intracranial pressure changes are very serious problems that we need to address. Intraocular pressure changes. So we need to develop some procedures, measures, how we can protect crewmates from that. So this helps not only crewmates, but people on Earth as well.
This crew includes a biochemist whose research has focused on how space travelers lose bone and muscle mass and suffer impacts to the respiratory and other systems of the body over time.
We will start a new experiment to improve the countermeasures system. It's more of a physical exercise experiment. And we also pay a lot of attention to the vestibular experiments as well.
And the crew includes an aerospace engineer who brings fresh eyes to the science of the station on his first trip to orbit.
We have this bone loss, we have the muscle mass loss, we get taller, so all of those effects, we want to try and understand really what's happening and how can we mitigate some of those effects if they're negative. And so yeah, just being there, we are an experiment in work.
In the areas of human life sciences, as well as physics and physical sciences and technology development, plus Earth observation and education, the station's partner nations are pushing the limits of science as they get smarter about what will be needed to support future explorers on missions away from Earth that will last for years. On this flight, the crew will experience something that hasn't happened in years. They'll be part of a 9-person crew on orbit. That happens in early November, when another Soyuz spacecraft arrives. Soyuz Commander Michael Turin, NASA's Rick Mastracchio, and Japan's Koichi Wakata start their tour of duty by delivering an Olympic torch, part of the torch relay to the site of the Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia, in February of 2014.
During this short period of time of direct handover that will last for 4 days, Oleg Kodev and I will perform an EVA, one of the tasks of which is to take the Olympic torch to space. We will take a picture with it, with the space station in the background, with the Earth in the background, and we will try to make sure that we see Russia and maybe Sochi, where the Olympic Games will take place.
They'll also retrieve a space exposure experiment and perform maintenance on other payloads on the exterior of the Russian segment of the station before bringing the torch back inside. 2 days later, Yurchikhin, Parmitano, and Nyberg depart the station with the Olympic torch in hand. Their departure marks the start of Expedition 38 and Kotov's second tour of duty as station commander. He and Rosansky plan to do at least one more spacewalk in December to install 2 cameras outside the Zvezda module for an optical telescope system, exchange some experiment hardware, and remove and jettison 2 communications antennae from the Poisk module. After that, Expedition 38 figures to be the center of a busy space traffic pattern. The first operational flight of the American commercial cargo ship Cygnus is targeted to arrive at the station in mid-December and stay for a month. Shortly after it departs, the next Dragon cargo craft is due to take the docking port on the Harmony module for a month, and while the crew works on its shipment of supplies, they'll also receive another Russian Progress freighter. Kotov and his Soyuz crewmates leave the station in mid-March to come home to Earth, after nearly 6 full months in space pursuing the advancement of scientific knowledge, learning how to take care of human explorers in space, and learning so much more than that.
We're learning about the world in which we live. We're learning about the machines that it takes to get us there and how those systems operate and how often they need to be repaired and what works and what hasn't worked. And so all of those are such a critical part of taking that next step and going beyond low Earth orbit and continuing human exploration.
Back now with a live view of the Soyuz rocket on the launch pad there in Baikonur. We are now 10 minutes, a little bit under 11 minutes before the launch, with liftoff scheduled at 3:58 p.m. Central Time. That'll be 2:58 a.m. there in Baikonur. All the systems are continuing to be checked out, and the clock continues to count backwards.
Final checks.
The Soyuz vehicle's gyros.
Everybody to say it's good to go and to hit the timeline, and then into space they go. Cockpit, that's pretty much like a live picture, live feed, and there's Hopper off to the right, it looks like, on the right side over there. They got this little thing there, and it's usually like a little monkey or something, a cat. Yeah, every commander has his own little thing, and that's what they use to see when they're weightless. It starts floating. It's pretty cool. It's a cat. Okay, gotta have the cat. Yeah.
This is Mission Control Houston. The countdown is proceeding to this evening's launch about 8 minutes from now. There's live in-cabin view of the crew. Again, that object you see floating over the crew is a toy cat. That was a gift from Kotov's children. It's also the same one he carried into space on his 2 previous missions. You will hear them referring to him by his call sign, which is Pulsar, this evening.
And if you notice outside the capsule that they had a cover on there, and that cover is actually the abort system for that, and it fits overhead the capsule, and it's blocking the window, so you actually can't see out the window on the way up. You use the windows on the way, once you're on orbit and once you're down, once you re-enter on that. But that is a window. It's just blocked by the abort system. And you can see all the equipment that they got strapped up there behind them. They carry everything up there with them, lots of clothes and stuff like that. So,
as we continue to take a look at the crew, the pre-launch preparations are now complete. At this point in the countdown, the Soyuz's first stage steering jets are in the ready-to-launch position, and ground commands have been received from the rocket, indicating that all primary and backup systems are ready for launch. T-minus 6 minutes and 51 seconds. The launch key has now been inserted into the launch bunker, and yes, it is a real key. It transitions the launch sequence into automatic mode. T-minus 6 minutes and counting.
Launch key inserted.
There's Oleg in the middle, and we got Sergey off to the other side over there, and this is the other camera. And then over on this side looks like Hopper.
T-minus 5 minutes and 30 minutes. Launch control reports that the range at Baikonur is clear. The Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey a little more than 5 minutes from now.
These release systems are actually pretty ingenious. Our systems, you have to mechanically undo latches, and then they move away as our rocket flies away, and there's a lot of parts that can actually not work right. And if one hangs up, it can actually flip the rocket over when it goes to start. But the Russian systems, they're all kind of counterweighted. So when the rocket's ready to fly, they just naturally fall away automatically. It's a really brilliant design.
T-minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds. As you heard just a few minutes ago, the combustion chamber nitrogen purge is taking place. This is where the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines are purged with nitrogen to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer. T-minus 4 minutes and counting.
Onboard measurement system activated by run 2. Oxidizer and fuel drain.
Imagine the courage it takes to strap into this thing, put it on your back, and then launch into the black of night. Absolutely incredible when I think about it.
T-minus 3 minutes and counting. The ground propellant feed has been terminated, and the booster tank is now being pressurized for flight. This optimizes the flow of fuel and helps add structural support to the rocket. Two minutes, 30 seconds.
Our class has a saying. Whenever we toast ourselves or drink a beer or celebrate it, those things that we do as part of being astronauts, we look at each other and we say, chumps in space. And we are about to realize that.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
It's like a football game.
T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds. The International Space Station now passing high above Kazakhstan, right over the Baikonur Cosmodrome. These two vehicles are about to play a 6-hour catch-up game with each other. T-minus 1 minute and counting. The Soyuz is now on internal power, and we have auto sequence start.
That's it, 1 minute. A lifetime of work, and we're in the last minute before realizing the reward.
T-minus 45 seconds.
Vehicle to internal power.
The ground umbilical is beginning to swing back. T-minus 30 seconds and counting. T-minus 15 seconds and counting. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition.
Intermediate. Lift off.
Okay, there's ignition, there's the main
Fly now.
engines. There's liftoff.
And the Soyuz is now on its way with Mike Hopkins, Oleg Kotov, and Sergei Ryazanskiy on a 6-hour ride.
Go Hopper!
All nominal. Loading final.
Good first stage performance. The Soyuz delivering 102 tons of thrust from its 4 boosters and single engine. The first stage of the Soyuz measures 68 feet in length and 24 feet in diameter. It is currently burning liquid fuel for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of the flight.
nominal flight.
– 70 seconds into the flight, velocity is now 1,100 miles an hour.
Nine, 90 seconds. Stable condition. Inaudible.
Separation.
The 4 strap-on boosters have now been jettisoned. These have completed their job and have dropped away at an altitude of 30 statute miles. The Soyuz is now traveling at 3,937 miles an hour.
What is this? 150 seconds. All is nominal. $160. Launch shroud jettison.
The launch shroud has now been jettisoned. The rocket's altitude is now 52 miles high.
Confirming launch shroud jettison. Observing. Confirming.
All right, inside the cockpit.
Here's a look at Mike Hopkins there in the right seat of the Soyuz. Everything on board going according to plan.
Vibration, oscillation, within norm. Normal operation of the systems.
The Soyuz core stage is performing as expected. The core stage of this vehicle is 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter. With a single
right now
engine,
they're trying to get the
4
speed
fuel
together
chambers
so that they
providing
can get into
96
the
tons
right
of
orbit
thrust for
and
3
get
minutes
the
and
orbit
28
insertion
seconds
so
of
that they can
operation.
go rendezvous on the space station.
The stage will continue to burn
That
until the
just
4-minute,
takes time.
43-second mark. The Soyuz uses what's called a hot stage technique. The third stage will ignite while the second stage is still burning. This is why the Soyuz has an open area in between the second and third stages. Second stage is separating and shutting down.
Interference.
Current altitude 105 miles.
Third stage thruster activation.
The Soyuz now being propelled by the single engine of the Soyuz's third stage. This engine is providing 30 tons of thrust and will burn for 4 minutes and 2 seconds.
Separation from the third stage. $350 seconds, thrust is nominal.
Once the third stage delivers the Soyuz to orbit and the module is separated, a series of pre-programmed commands will be executed to prepare the Soyuz for orbital operations.
Everything is fine on board.
These stored commands, called time-tagged commands, allow many of the Soyuz's systems to be automatically activated by onboard computers at precise times stored within them.
Seconds. Nominal system.
All right, it's pretty neat stuff. The exciting stuff is starting to subside a little bit, and they're starting to feel weightless, and they're floating around and getting ready for, I don't know if they've made it to main engine cutoff yet or not, but they're moving along pretty quick by now. The Soyuz continuing to fly, everything